Bonjour tout le monde, bienvenue au Bracket Show. Bruno Barrette en direct de la deuxième journée de Confoo et je reçois avec moi aujourd'hui Sonia Maulo. Hi Sonia,
Hi.
how are you?
Hi. Good. How are you doing?
Pretty good, thanks.
Good.
Before starting with the questions, maybe tell us a bit about yourself.
Sure. Yes, I'm a proud Montrealer. Je parle aussi en français, alors on a les deux langues.
Nice.
This interview will be in English, however, but happy to field any future questions in either language. So proud Montrealer, have lived here my whole life. I would say the first things that are the most important to me are my family. So I have two boys of 18. I can't believe I have an 18-year-old son, 18 and 15. And my husband as well. And, the pandemic has enabled us to spend more time together.
Mhm.
So I'm actually very grateful for that. Otherwise, my 18-year-old would never be home. So that's a little bit about me. Of course, I'm very, very passionate about helping leaders. And that's what my talk is about today. And helping them be the best that they can be and helping their people be the best that they can be.
All right. So, well, let's just dive into the subject. You said that your talk is about reinvention. Maybe we could start with a simple question, or maybe not. What is reinvention for you?
Right. So it is a big, big question, and we're going to look at that in detail at my talk this afternoon at 1 o'clock. But in a nutshell, I can give you the most important part of reinvention for me in terms of a definition is to look at the best of who you are and your strengths, keep that, and then look at the needs of your current situation and use and apply those strengths in the present to impact a better future. And it sounds fun, but it's actually not easy, right? For us personally to actually reflect and identify our strengths and then apply them to current needs. It is a beautiful model of reinvention because it gives us hope. We don't have to start from scratch. A lot of people are like, oh, we got to take all that away and start new. Start over. Everybody knows about that in 2020, right? And today we got to start over. So it's a very hopeful message that we should look at what makes us special and what strengths we have to help the world move forward.
Okay. Maybe slightly related to this, how important is that in the actual pandemic context? Is it different, or should it be the same thing as it was before and should be after?
It's the same. In fact, from a reinvention lens, the crisis is an absolutely perfect time to reinvent, right? So it's actually necessary at all times, but especially important during a crisis, because what happens is we take on a lot of things sometimes that no longer serve us. We say yes to a lot of things and we become or we do things that we're stuck in almost. And so we have to take a regular practice of reflecting and reviewing what we're doing and how we're doing them to be able to let go of the things that are no longer important. And I'm going to talk a little bit about my personal story when the pandemic hit this afternoon during my talk, to give you a real life example about it. And, I started 2 new businesses after the pandemic hit, and I had a really good business, but then I had no business.
Oh, ouch. That doesn't help.
Exactly. But what am I going to throw it all away and start from scratch? I took the best of everything and I built 2 what are now thriving businesses. And I used reinvention to do it. And so that's for me as a business owner, but I used it in my personal life as a mother, as a wife, as a friend, as a worker. I teach at the university, so I hold a lot of roles that most people have. And it's not just as business owner, but honestly, reinvention is something that has really helped me in the past year.
Is it a process, a question that comes to mind that is mostly an individual process, or is that something that can go as far as being part of the company you work in their culture?
Oh, what a perfect question. I love that question. That is so good. So yes, and yes, and yes.
Okay.
So it is something that we as individuals can use as a philosophy, but essentially my job, my role, one of the businesses that I launched was Réinvention Canada, where we work with businesses to bring reinvention into the culture of the business. And it can work in many different ways. We have different models. So it can be that you have one person who's the chief reinvention officer who supports this within the company. But it certainly can be individuals. It could be grassroots, where the individuals use this in their philosophy in the leadership and in the teams, which is what I'm very passionate about as well.
Okay. And one of the things you said earlier, it's about focusing on strength. How can the decision of letting go something that's not a strength, whatever we call it, if it's a weakness or something to work on, how do you make the decision of letting go instead of trying to improve? What makes the choice between the two?
So another one of my big beliefs in terms of leadership is strengths-based leadership. So the idea behind that is that if I've identified a weakness, and we all have them, right? So if I've identified a weakness for myself, our normal process is, oh, I got to work on that. You know, it's a weakness. I got to improve it. I got to work on it. Because it's not good, you know, I need to get rid of that. I need to make it better. But the understanding is that it's a weakness because it's something that's more difficult for us as an individual. So it will take me longer to become better at it. I probably don't have as much energy that I need to put into it. Therefore, when it's not going so fast, I might get discouraged and let it go. So I don't have passion for it. I'm not going to put the time into it, and it's going to take me longer. So if we take the strengths-based approach, the idea is, let me find somebody I can partner with who has the strength as that is my weakness, and they can help me balance that so that I can focus on my strengths and push my own purpose and my own work and world forward by shining the light on my strengths, as opposed to focusing on weaknesses, which is probably going to drag me down. So that art of letting go is something that we have to continually do. And I use it as a regular practice. Not easy, but definitely helps us be happier human beings.
That makes me think about another question. Say you have a job in a company that 2 people have to do it. It requires a certain, let's say, 4 strengths, whatever that is.
Okay.
One of them has 2 of them and 2 weaknesses, and the other one is the opposite. So is that a matter of saying this job is filled by 2 people, even though they don't by themselves fully fulfill the job? So is that a kind of things that we should start seeing in companies? Saying a role is represented by a team of people and not by individuals that have to fulfill the checklist.
You got it. Absolutely. Yeah. In the work that I do, I help in particular teams help identify their strengths and their weaknesses, and then have the conversation with other people on the team to say, oh, you have the thing that I have as a weakness, you have it as a strength. Let's work together. So that's actually a method for performance multiplication. So if you want to multiply your performance, that's exactly what you should do. You got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are there any tools, frameworks that can help in all this? Because you can't easily identify everyone's weaknesses and say, all right, we just focus on strengths now.
Right. There are so many tools. Yes.
Okay.
There are. So I will talk about 2 of those tools this afternoon. Okay. We will do one together. We will use an assessment tool together. So there's various tools, and there's tools that address your mindset, the tool set. So there's also lots of tools, and your skill set. So each one of these has different tools that you can use. And we're going to look at some, but of course there's a ton, and it all depends on the situation you're in and the people you're working with. Okay,
cool. I know you said before this interview that you wanted to talk also about a living legacy. Maybe first question I would ask is, what's your definition of living legacy?
Good. Also something we're going to look at this afternoon. Definitions are so important.
Don't go into details. We don't want to spoil your talk.
But I don't mind. I don't mind. So living legacy are 2 words I threw together that kind of sound like opposites. So a legacy is something we think about that happens, after we're dead. A lot of people get confused. But I put the word living in front of it because why should we wait until we're dead? That's not fair. We need to live and appreciate our strengths, coming back to strengths, today. So there's 3 parts to the definition. The first part is, how do I appreciate all the things that I have and that I do for me?
For you.
For me.
That's a bit opposite of the idea of the legacy.
Yeah, that's right. So it's for me, number 1. Number 2, for others. And then the third part is also very important, is what do I leave behind that will help the world and the people around me? So that's the legacy part, right? But it's not about after death, it's today. So it's a grounding in purpose. And what I've noticed, especially in today's world in the past year, if we ground ourselves in purpose, we will get through this. If we are struggling to find our purpose, then it's going to be even more difficult. So that's why living legacy is integral with reinvention. And I'm going to make that connection this afternoon.
Yeah, because I'm guessing if I take back the third part you said about how did you say it? Sorry. Leaving something behind. You're actually focusing on your strengths because you won't leave your weaknesses behind for everyone. So yeah, I definitely see the connection.
You got it.
And how can having a living legacy help in all this, in either pandemic or non-pandemic context?
Right. So the first word I can share with you is focus. So if you absolutely spend the time to create your living legacy, you wake up every day with focus, which brings joy, which brings energy. Of course, we're always going to have ups and downs. That's normal. But with a strong purpose or a strong living legacy, those ups and downs balance out. And we learn how to navigate this every 10 minutes, something new.
It's roller coaster. It's basically a roller coaster.
Exactly. So it helps us normalize the situation we're in. So pandemic or not, but more so now. And the other thing that's really important is that we're not always going to do things we're passionate about. It's not natural to think everything we do is going to be so great. There's going to be things we have to do that we don't like doing. And with a living legacy, with a strong purpose, we can help find joy in all of those things, in the ups, in the downs, because we know where we're going, right? So it's a better focus that helps with our emotional roller coaster, as you put it, right? So it's something that's always been important, and I've been talking about it for years, but more so now. And in fact, my Confoo talk last year was about living legacy.
Okay.
And this year, it's adding the idea of reinvention to that.
All right. Maybe a last question.
Sure.
Are there any reasons that people would or should not try to reinvent themselves? Is there a point where you say, I don't need this?
So in terms of the methodology, so reinvention is very research based. There's a lot of research behind it. And if we look at the reinvention life cycles, there is and we're going to look at this too this afternoon. There's a cycle that happens.
Okay.
And the moment of reinvention has to happen before you actually need to do it. And if you don't, then you die.
So basically, you should always be trying to look out for if you need to reinvent yourself, because you don't want to miss the train.
Yep, because whatever you're working on, if you're working on a product development, let's say, if you miss that point and you're like, oh no, we're good, this is good, let's keep going, let's stick to this. And if you wait too long, it will be too late and the thing will die, the product will die. But if you reinvent before the time, it's the same with us as individuals. So we have to constantly be ready.
So you always check, and if it happens, it happens. If it does not, you're still on the right path.
Yeah.
Easy? Huh. No, not at all. Not at all. But I definitely see the point.
Yeah.
All right. So that was all the questions I had. Thank you very much, Sonia, for your time. That was really interesting and different from most of the developer topics we have. So exactly. I hope people will enjoy this interview.
Thank you so much, Bruno. This was a lot of fun.
Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.